He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Kia ora whānau. Just a heads up before we get into it. This episode of Orators Anonymous contains sexual content, mature themes and some spicy language. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Orators Anonymous, a new Māori Pacifica queer-coded podcast brought to you by Wheke Fortress Gallery, streamed weekly on Twitch channel Rev TV. Hosted by Coco, Manu and Mush, the theme this week, the erotic. Anchored by Audre Lorde's landmark essay Uses of the Erotic as Power, OA unpacks ancient erotic cults in the Pacific, Victorian love letters, and the importance of eroticism in their own lives.
E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi, e rauranga tira mā. E kui mā, e koro mā, e huihui nei, tēnei, aku mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai, ki te hui, me te whare haumaru o te wheke ki maunga kia, tamaki makaurau i tēnei pō. Hey, welcome! Greetings, listeners, streamers, viewers on whānau out there. Welcome to the third episode. We're on episode number 3 of our new podcast, Orators Anonymous.
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
It's our stream and broadcast from Rev TV, Revolution TV, our independent Twitch platform. I'm one of your 3 hosts tonight, Coco. I am joined by the beautiful Mush.
Talofa.
And the beautiful Manu.
Hey.
We are also joined by the very beautiful Remy.
Hey, Remy.
Hey, Remy.
Ngā mihi,
Hey, Remy.
Remy.
You want to put you on the camera? Look at her.
Hey everyone, it's good to be here again. Welcome back.
Period.
So tonight our thematic kaupapa is the erotic as a political remedy. We explore eroticism as per the writer academic Audre Lorde's landmark essay, Uses of the Erotic as Power.
Period.
We ask, what does eroticism have to do with land back, fighting capitalism? We'll be unpacking our respective relationships with the erotic and how Indigenous readings connect and differ from the West when it comes to things like beauty, romance, body, and critical intuition. So before we begin, these two have a message for you.
Yes.
Yeah, honey.
We have some messages.
We do.
All right. So the views and opinions expressed during this live stream are the views of Orators Anonymous alone and do not represent any affiliated organization. Content and critique is presented for entertainment and informational purposes only.
And to our community, our lovely community, we do not claim to be cultural authorities. The information shared is for storytelling and educational purposes only. Interpretations are offered in good faith and should not be taken as definitive or authoritative.
Thank you.
Malo. Yeah.
Aloha. For those who are just joining us for the first time, Orators Anonymous is a podcast for our Māori Pacifica queer fam and Aotearoa, our Indigenous misfits and insufferable bookworms across the Pacific and around the globe. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat.
Yeah.
Remy will be in the trenches with you. And we also have Mary the Fairy collating links and putting a reading list together for this whole series. So if there's anything that you want to know, just, again, put it in the chat. Tonight we're going to have a Q&A at the end as well, where we answer any questions, offer you advice, take requests. And don't be shy. I've heard that there's a lot of millennial hand-wringing, watching the chat go off and people want to join in, but they don't know how. Just jump in there, girl.
Yeah, girl.
Just get in there. Spam the emotes that are designed by our very talented Sa Māori friend, Sonia Milford. Big up to her, doing all of our lush branding, making everything look all seki. And this is an interactive podcast, so just have a good time. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
We are all karakia messaged up.
That's
Let's
it.
get into it. Wow. Welcome to this week's theme, World Kōrero. We are talking about the erotic as superpower, and a lot of the kaupapa is based on the landmark essay of Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde was a black lesbian feminist poet, essayist, and activist who championed social justice, intersectionality, and radical, timeless concepts of love. And her essay, Uses of the Erotic as Power, is one of the pieces collected in her book, Sister Outsider, Essays and Speeches from 1984. So this essay was originally delivered in 1978. It was a keynote talk at the 4th Berkshire Conference on the History of Women, and it was later published in various feminist journals, and it was included in her book as well. I learnt about this essay in 2014. I was in Nam. I was doing a talk at Liquid Architecture at one of their events, and the artist Caroline Anderson was performing that night, and she read this essay. And it really stayed with me. I was like, just talking about the subterranean power of the erotic. What is some of your guys' thoughts on the essay?
I think the essay is really fundamental, and I think as someone who, is on like the darker end of the spectrum skin-wise, especially here in the Pacific. Audre Lorde and that work in particular became a real touchstone as a way to like reclaim my ties to sensuality or like femininity even outside of the bounds of what was allowed to me, because I was like a black fuffer. So like people were just like, oh, well, this is for girls.
It gives so much permission, right? It's so expansive in that way.
That's it.
I only had the privilege of reading the essay in preparation for the podcast, and the way in which she was able to articulate things that have been stirring within me, or things that didn't actually feel right. And I'm like, wait, like what? Why doesn't this feel like intimacy? Why does this not feel erotic? Why is there still like a sense of yearning, or like why am I so unsatiated?
Yes. And we had talked in previous episodes about the hierarchy of romantic love, platonic love, whānau love, and how that is a real capitalistic construct.
So capitalistic. And I think the great thing about the essay is that it reframes it as like the idea of like the relationship or like the fostering of love that you have with yourself first is paramount.
Yes.
And then actually, it's not actually romantic love after that. It's the community love. It's platonic love. It's friendship.
The love of my life. The love of my life. So I'm going to read an excerpt of the essay. And of the erotic, there's a part of the essay that reads, "For women, this has meant a suppression of the erotic as a considered source of power and information within our lives. We have been taught to suspect this resource, vilified, abused, and devalued within Western society. On the one hand, the superficially erotic has been encouraged as a sign of female inferiority. On the other hand, women have been made to suffer and to feel both contemptible and suspect by virtue of its existence. It is a short step from there to the false belief that only by the suppression of the erotic within our lives and consciousness can women be truly strong. But that strength is illusory, for it is fashioned within the context of male models of power. As women, we have come to distrust that power, which rises from our deepest and non-rational knowledge. We have been warned against it all our lives by the male world, which values this depth of feeling enough to keep women around in order to exercise it in the service of men, but which fears this same depth too much to examine the possibility of it within themselves. So women are maintained at a distant, inferior position, to be psychically milked, much the same way ants maintain colonies of aphids to provide a life-giving substance for their masters. But the erotic offers a well of replenishing and a provocative force to the woman who does not fear its revelation, nor succumb to the belief that sensation is enough.
Period.
Ate that.
Eight.
Absolutely ate.
Incredible work.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that offering?
Well, just that. In my arts practice, I'm constantly trying to frame this idea of like, at the heart of like Pacific queer eroticism is like a mycelial network of memory spread across time and space. And like, it's similar to that, where like what that memory informs us with is like intuition, foresight, psychic ability, and we're often gaslit out of it all the time.
I so resonate with that, and I feel that's where my yearning comes from. It's like it's a yearning for not just a sensation, but like a state of being that feels familiar, that I'm still yet to reconcile with. But it's like in this shared mycelium network and that memory, and as I was kind of sharing before, like just downstairs, that I think that in reading the essay and in preparing for this, I think I was like, wait, I need to sit with, have I experienced orgasm or have I experienced oblivion? And me being like, I think that I've experienced more oblivion than I have orgasm. And not to say that orgasm is the apex of everything, but in terms of just being like my relationship with the erotic and it being kind of like,
It's a psychic thing.
it's a psychic thing.
Yeah. And when
It's a
you say like
psychic thing.
oblivion, does it feel like when you're engaging either like sexually or creatively with other forces, predominantly men? You know, to the men out there, we know they are trying, but
Keep trying.
keep trying. But is it that thing of like, in that moment of oblivion, something is siphoned from you?
Siphoned. Absolutely siphoned. And I'm scattered.
Well, she's talking about it in terms of like an industrialization of the erotic and that kind of psychic network and that subterranean knowledge system underground. And so, you know, you have the deflections of my muse, but it's actually my source.
My source.
And it goes back centuries, fam.
Yeah.
You have to remember that all of the courtesans, the tawaifs, the courtesans of the Forbidden City, what were they most known for outside of their work as sex workers? They were painters. They were poets. They were dancers. They were actresses. They were actors.
Yeah.
All of that creative force,
that
these men
creative-
try to siphon and take.
Because it's the close relationship between creative power and sensual power.
Yes.
They're synonymous and they're actually inextricable.
Inextricable. It's literally life energy.
Life source.
It's a life source. It is the source. So you can tell when someone is connected to the source or disconnected.
Yeah, because there's been a huge campaign to estrange us from giving us the confidence to actually use it and radically trust how we feel. That non-rationality she speaks of, because to those institutions it is dangerous. It is a threat. It means that they can't keep that hierarchical.
And knowledge is open source. It's unsourceable because it's
It's decentralized.
It's decentralized.
and it's psychic, and so there's no way for them to control it. It's not written. It's all ours intuitively.
Yes.
They don't.
Hence the radical truth with self and how that feels. And the vulnerability that you have to be like that which is connected to creativity.
And we were talking about how, and Lord talks about it too, how pornography is an estrangement of sorts, because it's kind of prioritizing. You've got like eroticism and the sensation, and pornography prioritizes sensation with no eroticism. And you were saying it was because
It's
vulnerable.
It's vulnerable.
To be seen and known in a completely different way.
And that's it. And I mean, that's the root of like the origins of sex work, is to like be able to extract and compartmentalize and be divorced from the intimacy of the act of being entangled. Like, girl, the erotic body is intense and it's fearful and it harkens back to the time of like goddesses. And we live in a Sky Daddy era.
Sky Dad era, the Sky cult.
Shout out to God.
That Sky Zaddy.
So all of you Sky Daddies, Brahma, Zeus, God, Allah, every single Sky Daddy, we're here.
The erotic is a presence in which you can weave into your doctrine.
Yes.
That's it.
You don't need to alienate it or
Blame
demonize it.
or demonize. Or
That's it. Also, Abrahamic girlies, remember the fuckapapa of your God. Your God used to be a Canaanite god, and he had a wife named Shira. Theologists know this.
Yes.
Stop going to those Bible studies run by those weirdos.
very bad.
Theologians, emote in the chat.
But
Come
also
on, theology girls.
the way that was like the biggest PR campaign in all of history as well. Like,
Yeah.
Yahweh was actually a storm god.
Or Storm God,
And then they were like, you are going to be,
the God of the God of the God. You're going to be El.
you're going to be out.
So we've been all doing little, I guess, breakaway research in terms of the very broad, super broad definition of eroticism and how it shows up in the pantheon of our interests and our lives. So we're all going to kind of like take you on a little hyperfixation, very
Journey.
eclectic ride of Te Ao eroticism. I'm going to take you to 1920s London and France. And we're going to tell you a little story about Vita, Violet, and Virginia. Little love triangle for the girls, the sapphics out there. I've been selflessly doing my research. Vita Sackville-West was an aristocrat. She was a writer based in Kent. And Violet Trefusis, she was a socialite, a novelist based in France. Socialite, not a socialite, sorry. She shared a turbulent love affair with Vita around 1920s, preserved in their super intense love letters, now considered a key documentation of queer history.
Period.
So you got these two, okay? They're writing each other mad love letters. They're very obsessive, very toxic.
And it's Victorian, girls, so you guys know the smells, girl. The smells, honey, girl. Those the pheromones.
The pheromones! The Victorian pheromones.
And a few years later, Vita starts a relationship with good old Virginia Woolf.
Shout out.
Some of y'all will know them, literary icon based in London. And this inspired Woolf's novel Orlando in 1928. And it was her gender and genre-bending love letter immortalizing Vita. But it also depicted the unbreakable toxicity of Vita and Violet's bond. So Virginia comes on the scene, goes out with Vita, is so inspired, writes a novel, but shades like her other kind of unbreakable bond. And Violet didn't like it because she didn't like how she was depicted. So she claps back with a novel called Broderie Anglaise in 1935, which talks about Woolf's ego and manipulation of Vita. And the girls were basically fighting by releasing erotically charged novels about each other,
Yeah.
which is
I love that.
I love
that. Yeah.
very, very of the erotic.
Yeah.
All three of them had husbands, by the way, and it was all pretty supportive and lavender marriage in nature because they were all off with their kind of peeps as well. But there was a point where everyone told them or kind of begged them to stop writing each other incessant love letters, and they both, but especially Violet, said, I ain't stopping. I ain't ceasing and desisting with my psychotic, sapphic declarations of love for any of you. Like, shut up, I'm going to keep it like going.
Yeah.
So it was widely speculated that these letters were an outlet for Violet's endless erotic depths, that even when she wasn't with Vita, she couldn't stop because she dare not extinguish the inspiration, forfeit her true muse for anyone and anything leading ultimately to her own self-destruction. So I might read some of those letters later on. Let me know in the chat if you want to hear some psycho-sapphic love letters between Vida and Violet. But if you want to know more about the history of these girlies, I recommend the Paris Review story Feminize Your Canon by Emma Garman. She's got a beautiful quote that I think we've talked about a lot of times about the whole trice, but also the erotic in general, saying sensual pleasures did not reside, as she had supposed, in just one time-honoured act. Eroticism could exist in everything, in the way someone lit a cigarette or peeled an apple. Sensual pleasure is an atmosphere. It is not an incident, a diffused, continuous state. It is a lens which is added to your vision at birth and which never leaves you until the day you die.
Period. And you know what? On that, fuck you, Rene Descartes. Fuck you.
What Rene Descartes do?
A French philosopher popularized the Cartesian philosophy of like body-mind separatism. We are not our bodies, blah, blah, blah. Tomato. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
You got everyone in somatic therapy.
That's it. And you've got everybody, you've got these fucking Sigma bros. You got these Sigma bros out here being like, it's discipline over everything, bros. Discipline. You can do, and it removes.
It can be traced back to his philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like, and it's that thing that you're talking about with Violet, where she just had this ceaseless eroticism.
Yeah.
And how, like, and what we spoke about earlier about being gaslit out of that power because it's seen as feminine, frivolous, adolescent, and at worst, dangerous, maleficent,
malignant,
magically malignant, evil.
Yes, and it's anything but. It's just the girls writing each other letters.
That's it.
Get over it.
That's it, girls. And the erotic is in the body first. Like, and that's why I say fuck you, because it separates the girls from the bodily somatic experience of sensual power.
Absolutely, and it's so anti-alchemy.
Yeah, girl.
Like the body, mind, and spirit is all in one and one encompassing, and you need all three to be in harmony in order to reach gold.
That's
like,
it. I could just see Violet quivering. Quivering.
She been looking at the envelope like...
Actually, like...
And so the embodiment of eroticism is an atmosphere. It is not an incident. Like, I definitely feel in terms of Venetian principles, Venus is my first house. Come on. This one.
Period.
We prioritize, I guess, like, that violet life.
Yeah.
That violet life.
How do you both embody, I guess, these kinds of ideas and atmospheric things in your daily life?
We had briefly talked about it just before, and I mentioned how I got back into my meditation practice. And it was like last week, I was like sitting on a tree stump just at the back of the whare. I was like sitting there, eyes closed, and it's the first time I meditated in so long. And I just kind of my sensitivity just started to increase. I was starting to be so aware of everything that was around me, in me, moving through me. And literally like a good half an hour, 45 minutes in, I orgasmed.
Period.
And I'm literally there like, what? And I'm like, what? Like, literally. And I'm like,
Period.
and I was like,
Kundalini honey.
And I was like, the erotic.
The erotic,
Literally
girl.
the erotic. And the way it felt so right
Yes, girl.
as well. Like, so I think in terms of an experience, I guess that is an experience that I recently had, that kind of...
It can exist in everything.
Yeah,
the way
it exists in
someone
everything.
lights a cigarette or peels an apple.
Literally, the
Peels
sound
an
of the
apple.
birds, just the breeze of the wind, the
Yeah.
sun shining on my face, just everything.
That's it.
Which is what you were saying before. It's accessible everywhere and everything.
Yeah.
But we're gaslit out of it.
Out of it, you know, and even like what Audre Lorde is speaking about in regards to the separation of, the body of the sensual and the body of sensation. It's just like, baby, you can't have sensuality without sensation. So trying to remove the two, which men are trying to do through pornography and through like gooning and like all of these other things, is like inherently unhuman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have kind of modalities like glamour magic and the ways our relationship with beauty.
Shout out to witches.
Yeah, shout out. That we can kind of get into the portal with it, and we're like more likely to have it around us when we pay tribute to the shrine of ourselves and our intuition and things like that.
Yeah.
Period.
I'm thinking about, our trifecta lesbian power rock Victorian couple. My hyperfixation for a time has been gay cowboys. And there's this really great video on the history of gay cowboys on YouTube. It's done by this fab lesbian girl, and she's sitting there in her cowboy getup, and she's like, gay lesbians.
Love.
Cowboys. And
Who could ask for more?
who can ask for more? And I think what's so interesting about, say, those times, or even like whenever I go back to the islands and how sexually fluid it is, when they're kind of not barred, but I feel like saying when the times are simpler, it's so bad, and it's such a dog whistle for other things that I don't want to be alluded to, but I'm going to say it. Like, when they're not like kind of triggered by all of the philosophies around hypermasculinity and stuff going back around now, men have access to like a sensuality that is actually so beautiful, so poignant,
Absolutely.
so touching, and it's well recorded that cowboys engaged in homosexual behaviors as a means of bonding. Samurai did the same thing. Pirates did the same thing. And it was all in an attempt to reconcile, like, that thing that we're talking about with that separation wound that comes from exiting your mother or being born into the world. And men can heal that within each other if they let themselves. And speaking of, one such man was the beautiful poem. The beautiful poet.
Manu has read this to me. She's read this to me outside of Wendy's car park. It was gut-wrenching. Beautiful. Yeah. It's a beautiful poem.
Honestly, it's fab. It's written by a great poet from the 19th century. And he wasn't always a poet. He was a cowboy. His name is Badger Clark, and he was born in 1883 and grew up in Deadwood, South Dakota. And in his poem, he released a book named Sun and Saddle Leather, which wasn't published, but in that book of poems was a beautiful one detailing the death and the passing of his ranch partner and lover. It's called The Lost Partner. I can't read this without putting on. I can't read this poem without putting on a little something. So here we go. The Lost Partner. I ride alone and I hate the boys I meet. Today, some way, their laughing hurts me so. I hate the steady sun that glares and glares. The bird songs make me sore. I seem the only thing on earth that cares, 'cause Al ain't here no more. And him so strong and yet so quick he died. And after year on year, when he had always trailed it side by side, he went and left me here. We loved each other in a way that men do, and never spoke about it, Al and me. But we both knowed, and knowing it so true, was more than any woman's kiss could be. Was it there out beyond the last divide? Seems like the country must be cold and dim. He'd miss this sunny range we used to ride, and he'd miss me the same as I do him. It's no use thinking all I think or say, I could never make it clear. Out that dim trail that only leads one way, he's gone and left me here. The range is empty and trails are blind, and I don't seem but half myself today. I wait to hear him riding up behind me and feel his knee rub mine the good old way.
Moi mai rā.
Gosh!
Moi mai rā, Al. Yeah, I feel the same way about that poem as I do for whoever inspired Luther Vandross to write Never Too Much.
Never too much.
I wish I knew how to quit.
I wish I knew how to quit you. Truly. But
That's beautiful.
That was
stunning.
a beautiful reading.
And it's that thing. I just randomly got a message about Laverne Cox. We're just gonna address it here real quick. Laverne Cox, trans media icon, popularized by Orange is the New Black. She had come out about dating a young American police officer who was a huge supporter of MAGA and was a couple years younger than her. Look, here's the thing. Sleeping with people who hate you interrupts and severs your connection to the erotic. Point blank, period. What you're having to reconcile is giving your soul to the devil. It's Faustian.
Yeah.
It's evil.
It's severance.
It's severance.
It is absolute severance.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
Bars.
but in saying that, what's not Faustian and evil is offering yourself up to the love that you know is true inside your heart, divorced from societal impulse.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about that poem, The Lost Partner, is that, you know,
It transcends.
it transcends.
And it's not about all of these kinds of modes and
That's it.
assumptions and labels you would think that these people would have to mitigate. They transcend that in order to speak what it is they share,
That's it.
which is often between people unspeakable.
Unspeakable.
They can't define it. They can't catch it.
That's it.
But it's no less precious than the things that can be captured and defined.
And defined.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the terrifying thing about the erotic, if we're thinking about it in this way, is that it is the closest way that we can contain the ineffable.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that inherently the ineffable is like feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the divine.
Yeah.
It's how we can pay tribute to something that we've been so kind of violently forced to not pay tribute to
That's
Yeah.
it.
Or worship at the altar of.
and embody.
And embody.
That's it. Oh, yeah, girl.
You had been doing some research, Mushy, into
Yes.
ideas of eroticism
Yes.
in the Pacific.
Yes. I have been very obsessed lately with the Seal Vili cult. Yes. I had no idea who they were, but I am completely obsessed about this cult. So just to kind of give some context, we're now going to travel to 1830 Samoa.
Gag.
That is when these two missionaries arrive. They also come over with 8 Tahitian teachers. During this time, there's a lot of tension in Samoa. And so people are now converting to the church because they are being stricken with disease that others are bringing over. But it just so happens that these missionaries also have the medicine for this. So it's very like calculated, very, and so we see like an influx of a lot of chiefs and high chiefs and villages kind of converting.
Yeah.
And then what was really interesting is that there was a missionary who actually did a survey in 1836, and he actually surveyed the whole of Samoa and detailed which villages had converted and which villages hadn't.
Oh.
And so we had 38 villages who were partly or wholly LMS, which is the London Missionary Society. We had 39 villages who belonged to the Wesleyan, who had converted to the Wesleyan faith. We had 31 who were still kind of keep on kaupapa with Whaasamoa as well as kind of the old religion. And then we had 22 who ended up being like this really weird mix of like sailors and like, it was this like
Miscellaneous.
And so in this account of history, as we all kind of are aware, when we do go back into history, the questions I'm always asking is where are we in this? Where are the girls? And then I stumble across the Sealville cult. So the Sealville cult was actually in response to what was going on in and around them. It was introduced by Twinuela and Joe Villi, and they were well traveled. So they went to Tahiti, they went to Tonga, they went all across the Pacific and came back, and they noticed what was going on. It's important to note as well that Sealville himself was a taulaitu, and would also go by Sesu Alaisa, which was kind of like their taulaitu name, in which they would embody the feminine.
Gag.
In order to access this divine, and they would keep their traditions alive, and they recognize the Abrahamic God as just another god who had joined their pantheon.
Period.
So it wasn't like the apex of a god, and so
It's like the more the merrier.
yeah, the more the merrier. And a big kind of belief of the Sealville cult is possession. And so, and I honestly think it would be such a gutter that they'll literally be like, oh, Jesus Christ is in me. And then they would have these messages. What's also important to note is that the taulaitu who are also whaatama would actually dress as Jesus Christ to convey these messages as well.
Gag.
So it was a cult comprised of whaafafine, taulaitu, whaatane, and woman. It was the girly pops responding to emergency on the spiritual plane. And what was really beautiful about this is they kept our sensuality and our eroticism alive. They kept the bowlers going, which they protected it. And so they would have these, they called them evening dances, where like everyone it's an incredible orgy. Honestly, I wish I was there. I want a polar.
And
I want to be in the middle of a polar and just be in
heard about them bowlers.
So they actually like protected eroticism as a doctrine.
As a doctrine. And then what is really fascinating about this cult is that they spanned literally like all of the islands of Samoa, all to Tutuila, and they lasted for 30 years.
That's incredible.
30 years. And then they were kind of like, they kind of saw what was going on in terms of on the societal front.
Yeah, as
the
girls do.
As the girls do. And they're like, okay, we need to survive. Let's dissolve now into with the Wesleyan faith as well as Catholicism, because those were the most kind of like witchy kind of practices.
Shout out to our Catholic girls.
Shout out to our Catholic girls.
Shout out to our Catholic woman.
And a Catholic woman. Oh. And so...
That's incredible.
And when I stumbled across this, I obsessed.
Period.
I was like, wait, what? Like,
and so those 30 years, whenabouts was this? Is this...
Yeah, so this was pretty much... So it's from the 1830s and until the late 1870s.
The 19th century, y'all.
19th century.
They were fighting to keep indigenous and stray.
Yeah.
It was going toe-to-toe, for sure.
Going toe-to-toe.
It was literally a war of the minds.
A war of the mind, spiritual warfare,
I think
esoteric warfare.
Safe to say that warfare still continues, right?
Absolutely. And when I was looking at the stats of how all the villages were divided, I was like, yeah, that stat hasn't changed.
No, the statistics kind of sound familiar.
Feel very familiar.
Incredible.
Yeah. And I felt sort of affirmed. But very obsessed. I'm still like buzzing out about it.
Also, girl, you're in the lineage.
Yeah. And it really...
And you're in the right space to be paying honor to those things.
Yeah. So shout out to our tubes for literally recognizing what was going on and responding in a way which made sense to them. And theologically, it makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that ties into, I had been reading Intuitive Ritual, a mana wahine source book by Ngahuia Murphy. Ngahuia is an award-winning scholar, author, artist, and public speaker committed to reactivating Indigenous women's sacred knowledge and ritual practice. I came across her work with her book Waifiro, which is about menstruation in the pre-colonial Māori world, and she has another book of the same name. She talks about ritual as an access point for us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
she writes, ritual is an intuitive art of the soul. It is a communication and expression of our own wairua. It is a state of mind and an intention, a way to connect with ourselves, make meaning, find purpose, grow understanding. In ritual, we renew our bonds with nature. We place our hands on papatuanuku and raise them to the sky in reverence for the alignment, balance, and interconnectedness of all things. We connect with the vital life pulse that binds all of us as relations. We cultivate intimacy with and sensitivity towards the sacred. To do so is a natural human impulse. It is a fundamental expression of mana motuhake, the way each of us as sovereign beings connects with divinity. Here, poised at the precipice when species topple into extinction and the world exhausts herself in her chant of continuity, our rituals are what they have always been, a way of connecting, a way of remembering, a way of reverence, a way back from the longing we feel inside, caused by our estrangement from nature and the sacred resonance of our own spirits.
Period.
That
Yeah.
resonance.
And so you had been doing a little bit of research as well in terms of your world, your lens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I've already spoken a bit about it, and I don't really want to go too much into it because it references a bunch of boring old white people. But I think my thing with ritual, there's this really interesting concept and kind of whakaaro that Langi Mama Consultancy and Academy Group have kind of come up with. Hey, girlies.
Hey, girls.
And they've kind of gone through really extensive lengths to kind of rebuild Indigenous Tongan frameworks of art, because by the time English and French academics came into Tonga, they had flattened all of our arts into one and condensed everything and made everything really boring. And essentially what they had shared with me is that everything in Tongan society, right down to lovemaking, was considered an art. All of our sports were considered art.
An art
all
form.
of our, and I don't know if I'm going to say it right. I'm going to say it anyways, and if it's wrong, you're not going to see it on the gram.
You ain't going to hear it.
You ain't gonna hear it. But they were calling it like tufunga whaka tawele, and tawele means to seduce. Wow. And so it's like the artmanship of
Yes.
Seduction, baby.
Yes. And being a tufunga, like you are the expert of that craft.
the expert of that craft.
Oh.
And it's this idea that when we have the boulders and stuff like that, what you're good at is either dancing to make everyone bricked up, or you could tell like a tantalizing story or a poem.
Come on.
Talk about the blossoming of flowers, the ripening of fruit, the budding of the rose.
Oh, the rose.
Yeah.
To get the girlies soaked.
Yes. And that's an art form.
And
that
it's
is
an art form.
And it is embedded into everything.
Everything. And it's in our chants.
Yeah.
It's in our songs.
That's
it's
it.
in our vernacular, in our language.
And I think about it here, you know, shout out to my girlie Megan, she's a Ngati Paro girl. And they're very famous, Waiata Paikea, and how and how the original lyrics are very very
The waiata be unabashed, unrepressed.
That's it.
Speaking to the truth of things.
the truth of things.
I feel like that reminds me of another kōrero that Murphy has in her book about the Tohunga Suppression Act, which, as well as acting as a suppression of, you know, various Māori practices and rongoa, is also tied to what we're talking about, suppressive activity, estranging us from these kinds of more supposedly esoteric things. And she writes, The Tohunga Suppression Act in 1907 and other settler legislations provoked fear in our relationships with Te Ao Wairua as a means of social control. Legislations that attempted to eradicate our spiritualities as bastions of tino rangatiratanga were lifted from witch hunt legislations and papal bulls across Europe. A papal bull is a formal public decree or a charter issued by the Catholic Church. The Pope usually puts out a pānui. Female healers, midwives, and wise women were publicly tortured and executed in their hundreds of thousands. And the fear and disconnection from the sacred and the shame many of us feel about our own bodies as wahine can be traced back to the witch hunts and the violent persecution of feminine power. In Aotearoa, wahine as first teachers were targeted by the mission stations, and many of the missionaries believed our tipuna were a people sunken so low in the scale of their humanity that they were hurtling towards extinction. Sorry, you were wrong.
You were wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
You were wrong.
The symbols of this inferiority were the lack of physical chastisement inflicted on tamariki, the reverence afforded Māori women, children and the earth, and the bold celebratory attitudes Māori women displayed towards their own sexuality and bodies. So when you see all of these legislations getting remixed, distorted, tampered with, and it's an onslaught of them, and you think that it's not a big deal, these things have absolute psychic repercussions across all space and time at a very deep cosmic level. So no, you don't want to hear, hey, vote in your local election or, get that submission in. But these suppression acts, they had long
Term effects, and
long-term
that we're
effects.
still trying to fix
Undo.
now and undo.
That's what we're doing tonight.
That's what we're doing tonight. And the crazy thing about that Tohunga Suppression Act is that some of these priests that came alongside the missionaries were so gagged by the sexual liberation of peoples here in Aotearoa and across the Pacific. They were doing all this perverted shit. Because they felt the liberation. And that song in the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hellfire, Hellfire. That's what they think. They treated all of us as
It's like
the source of their lust.
The source of their
But we
lust.
were just a subject of their perversion because they couldn't get right within themselves.
They couldn't get
Like,
right within themselves.
And
In their interpretation of liberation, it was like very much like, oh, no, that's not really what we meant. Like, you've gone too far, Brad.
that's it.
And it's also like the fact that the missionaries introduced the concept of pornography to us as well. Like we had
That's
no idea of that concept because everything was art.
Well, everything was art and everything was natural. The erotic body, the sensual body is natural. The pornographic body and the sexualized body is not.
It's not that,
Or at least when it comes up to the sexual body, I like to think that the sexual body is conditional. And you have to be in the right conditions to activate the sexual body. But the sexual body as the natural state of the human, no.
No.
Which is why ritual is so important.
Ritual, because
So then
ritual accesses the
So
sexual
you have
body.
to like perform access points correctly to be able to kind of summon the true state of communion.
Of communion.
With the erotic.
That's it.
You can't be disembodied in that very colonial, morbid way, which kind of constantly tells you what is erotic, what is
What
attractive.
is attractive. And that's what gets like the guys so irked. We're going to get into this. We're going to talk about shadow attraction
And state
and
sanctioned.
state-sanctioned
State-sanctioned
attraction.
attraction.
And this actually touches to that Laverne Cox stuff as well. How much do you think people will be happier if they got to love the people that they wanted without being policed by the surveillance state that we live in?
They would be infinitely happier.
Definitely
And this was tied to what you were talking about with DL culture and the severance there and the
severance.
submitting to the surveillance state essentially.
Exactly. And when you are constantly operating as a shadow and not even necessarily true to oneself nor anyone else. You're actually not even engaging in sex, you're engaging in performance. And you're engaging in the complete opposite of eroticism, which is vulnerability. This is literally, you are masking, you are performing, and you are in the middle of the gooner to the very, like, to that right-wing pipeline.
Yeah.
Like, you're in that pipeline.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And also to y'all who don't kind of, or who do police yourselves in regards to who you decide you are allowed to exist with publicly, understand that the ramifications of that is that all of us girlies who exist in othered bodies and fringe communities have to kind of do the emotional work of like carrying you whilst also fixing ourselves because you don't know how to love openly.
Yeah.
And it's all of these, we talk about state-sectioned attractions and the intersections of desire that is masked, and that can range from anywhere, from transphobia to fatphobia to whatever the relegated taboo is. But in actuality, it doesn't stop the grind. It doesn't stop those feelings from being felt and those advances from being made, cloak and dagger as they are.
That's it. And I think that's the interesting thing about the 19th century is like, especially in places like the Wild West or the open sea or the Pacific, any other regions that were untouched by like manifest destiny bullshit, is that because power remained decentralized, their access to kind of free love, as you will, wasn't really surveilled and policed. And so you have beautiful poems like The Lost Partner.
Exactly.
And like really charged Victorian lesbian poems.
Yeah.
Letters.
It makes me feel like quite sad.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, we're robbed of like eroticism in our return.
There's a podcast called The Soul Salon. It is by Understood, I think is her name, and she has an amazing episode about the erotic, what we're talking about, through her lens. And she says on that episode, which I think speaks to that feeling of we're robbed, how are we able to reclaim these things? The episode that she has is called Reclaiming the Erotic.
Period.
And she says, but not all erotic experiences, aspects, and understandings are sexual, and similarly, not all sexual experiences are erotic. Let's break this down further and give examples. So erotic experiences that aren't sexual, we are talking about things that simply make you feel alive. Making love, which would be in the intersection, sharing joy with another person, yes, a deep kind of shared experience with somebody and all understandings of it, where you're giving each other your fullest presence. You are making each other feel alive. It could be giggling with your friends. It could be hysterically laughing at something. It could be sharing food with someone you know. When you break something with someone and you eat food, it feels like an enlivening experience. Estee Perelman interviews have given the example of singing with somebody that can feel enlivening. Erotic experiences are you and your senses heightened. You are truly enlivened. And so you can see people who are either asexual or not interested in purely accessing the erotic through sexual experiences, they can still fully access the erotic because it means that you just prioritize feeling alive.
Feeling alive.
It's right there for the taking, girls.
That's right there,
that's
girlies.
That pretty much brings us to the end of our third episode. Thank you, everyone, for rumbling in the chat, sending love, emotes, questions. I'm going to finish us off by reading one of the letters that Violet sent to Vita, Ingowa Moa, back in the day. My days are consumed by this impotent longing for you, and my nights are riddled with insufferable dreams. I want you. I want you hungrily, frenziedly, passionately. I'm starving for you if you must know it. Not only the physical you, but your fellowship, your sympathy, the innumerable points of view we share. I can't exist without you. You are my affinity, the intellectual pendant to me, my twin spirit. I can't help it, no more can you. We complete each other. I want you every second and every hour of the day, yet I am being slowly and inexorably tied to somebody else. Sometimes I am flooded by an agony of physical longing for you, a craving for your nearness and your touch. At other times I feel I should be quite content if I could only hear the sound of your voice. I try so hard to imagine your lips on mine. Never was there such a pitiful imagining. Nothing and no one in the world could kill the love that I have for you. I've surrendered my whole individuality, the very essence of my being to you. I've given you my body time after time to treat you as you pleased, to tear in pieces if such had been your will. All the hoardings of my imagination I have laid bare to you. There isn't a recess in my brain into which you haven't penetrated. I have clung to you and caressed you and slept with you, and I'd like to tell the whole world I clamour for you. You are my lover, and I am your mistress, and kingdoms and empires and governments have tottered and succumbed before now to the mighty combination, the most powerful in the world. Whew. So super chill.
Oh my God. She has a Leo in Venus for sure.
Or a Scorpio
Venus and Leo. Yeah,
Yeah.
or a Scorpio Venus.
Very nonchalant, just girly things, and very much uses of the erotic.
Uses of the
Embodied. You can see why she
erotic.
didn't want to cut that off or give up the letter writing. She was really tapped in.
Girl.
Beautiful, ne? I hope you all enjoyed that reading. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I think the theme is live, love, land back. Thank you to Remy, Manu, Mushi, all of us. Pipi! All the Whike Fortress whānau and the Revolution TV whānau. Ka kite! Bye, pomare!
That.
Orators Anonymous was made with Pūtau Tautoko from Creative New Zealand, New Zealand On Air, and the RNZ Arts and Culture Podcast Co-Fund. The creative director is Coco Solid, the producer is Esther Lelua, the assistant producer is Mary Adios-san, the producer/Twitch producer is Remy Shavinke, the hosts are Fuima Ono Tuema Fuiva Falese Taua Mush Lesefo, Manu Vaya, and Coco Solid. Sound design, composition and editing, Tokero Teokotai Brown. Ngā mihi to strategic advisors Rosabelle Tan and Yana Tenahu Owen, and the RNZ podcast teams Justin Gregory. Follow and listen to Orators Anonymous wherever you get your podcasts.